Hey everyone, Kathy the Vegan Prepper here, bringing you a video showing the process for canning whole berries, which is, in my opinion, the #1 best beginner canner project out there. I'm gonna go ahead and show you why. Vegan prepper, vegan prepper. Okay, why is this an ideal beginner project? Because all of the prep work is done faster than I can get stuff filmed, like literally. So I think I'm just going to start doing the process and bringing you along with it, and we can go ahead and kind of discuss some more stuff at the end. If you want to look at directions yourself, this is the book that I have, the USDA Complete Guide to Home Canning. Everything that is in this book is available for free on the NCHFP website. That's the National Center for Home Food Preservation. I'll put it right here. You can go to that and find instructions for any berry that you might like to do, or they say it's only for certain berries, this project, but raspberries is one of them, and raspberries is the one that I am doing today. And it couldn't be any easier. Like it's a raw pack, which means you just put the berries raw into the jars and just go from there. So it's just super easy. Let's go ahead and actually get started with this whole thing. Okay, so here's the current prep situation. All of the water has already been boiled, like it's pretty full, and it's been boiled already in my canner, and now I'm just sort of letting it sit off heat while I am preparing the berries themselves. My syrup, which I did a medium syrup, and I will talk a little bit about the syrup thing. I did a medium syrup, which I will put the proportions on the screen of what that was. This is also what you can find on the NCHFP website. It is already boiled. Now 1/2 cup of that needs to go into each one of the jars I am canning. And I've got 9 ready to go here. I've got now, like I said, everything happened so fast I didn't finish some of my other prep. So now this burner is on. I'm boiling or getting some water hot so that I can go ahead and pour it into my my container here that has my lids, because the lids need to be hot so that the seal is pliable. And I'm just realizing actually that some of my lids are upside down in here, so that's not very handy. You'll reach in and pull them out to go on top of a jar, so they should probably be facing down. So I'll get hot water in there to help those seals go more pliable for the actual canning process. But actually, before I get the syrup into these jars, I would like to confirm that I do in fact have this many raspberries that I can can. So I got just a screaming deal on some organic raspberries. It's cheaper than I've ever seen it. It was $11 for 12 of these containers of organic raspberries. So I just like to go ahead and preserve those if I can. But what I'm going to do is measure these into a quart jar. So if I get a full quart jar, then I would assume that that will do 2 pints. Of course, this is 2 pints. There's going to be headspace and everything. So I will know absolutely for sure that I have enough fruit. And then if some of the fruit, is left over, then we can just eat that because it's already been washed. But I'm going to go ahead and wash it just like 1 quart at a time, and we'll see how much I actually have. Okay, wow, that is super handy. It looks like 2 containers makes essentially a quart. So it looks like each one of these containers will be good for a pint. So I do definitely have plenty. So I have one other one that's in my fridge. So like I said, we can go through them, but I don't think that we can go through them that fast. So my procedure for washing these is going to be to take the raspberries and just gently put them into some water. Like, I'm not going to rinse them and move them around too much, like in a strainer, because they are so delicate. So basically this is how I'm going to wash them, and it looks like I could go ahead and get a couple more containers in here. And then at the same time I can be looking, well, I'm looking before I dump them for any that are not quite good. And then these can just be scooped out gently, probably with this handy dandy thing, which people use for frying, but I use it for, like, especially if I'm washing fruit en masse, I can just scoop it out like this. And then that actually fits very nicely into the funnel for the canning jars, and it can go into the jars, and I will show that in just a moment, but I'm going to go ahead and continue getting a bunch of this washed up. And now that I know for 100% for sure that I can get enough, or I have enough raspberries to do all 9 pints, I'm going to go ahead and start putting the syrup in here. And one of the things I really do love about ball jars in particular is the fact that they've got measurements on the side. So number one step is to fill the, at least for a raw pack, is to fill the jars, or put 1/2 cup of syrup in each jar, and then put your berries in. So I'm going to go ahead and put 1/2 cup of syrup in these jars, and I'm going to know when I hit it because it'll be here. So it is the next day, and I did have one failed seal, which I'm almost glad it happened so that I could show you guys what you're looking for. Basically for me, what just happened was the lid itself was still going up and down versus, so there shouldn't be any up and down. But also when I went to push against the side of the lid, I applied just a little bit of pressure and then it went bing. these, you have to apply a lot of pressure to get them to come off if you have a proper seal. The other thing I wanted to point out was you can see there's a visual difference between the cans, or the jars, I guess I should say, where now I'm looking at this one like this one's like this too, but it's nothing like this. See how they're still all spread out in the jar? All of these others are not as spread out. You can lift them up by their lid. They're solid, but see how they're all kind of, they're not towards the bottom. This one is. And I would assume that that has to do with the vacuum that's been created in these jars versus this one doesn't have a vacuum. So the raspberries are still distributed throughout the jar. Point being, if you have a failed seal, it is pretty darn obvious. So I know that that ends up being a fear of, you know, not being able to catch your seal right away. But it is actually pretty easy to tell. So yeah, if you just notice anything different, it's probably different for a reason. But yeah, like I said, I'm actually kind of happy that this happened so that I was able to show you guys what that looks like. I have no idea why it happened. It's just like sometimes you just have a failed seal. So anyway, that's it. Okay, they're done. And actually it smells incredible. Maybe I shouldn't be smelling so much raspberry smell coming out of my canner, but I don't know about you guys. It seems like every single time I can anything, I can smell it when I'm pulling it out of the canner, which makes sense to me because it's releasing air from inside the jar. So theoretically you should be able to smell it, but it smells amazing. And so they did reduce quite a lot in size inside the jar, which I was kind of expecting. So you do definitely see that more when you raw pack versus hot pack items. So certain berries are okay to hot pack because they're more sturdy, and in fact it's preferable to hot pack them. If you go to the NCHFP website instructions for canning whole berries, you will find that information. But raspberries in particular need to be raw packed because of how delicate they are. So you can't hot pack them or else they would just completely dissolve into nothingness. They would no longer be raspberries. I maybe could have like packed them a little more into the jars than I did, but again, kind of owing to their delicacy, I didn't really pack them. So if I end up preserving raspberries again, like if I find another, you know, crazy good deal or something, then I probably will work at like packing them just a little more in the jars. But they're still really good raspberries, probably to throw into, you know, fruit salads in the future, or put on top of some banana and ice cream or something. And what's kind of fun with fruits packed in syrup is you kind of end up getting two things in one. You'll get the fruit itself, and then you'll also get the syrup in the jar, which ends up being very flavored, very much flavored like the fruit. And so it's almost like you canned raspberries and raspberry syrup at the same time. That's just, you know, just so that you know, FYI, that's like a thing to think about. But I did want to touch on the syrups briefly. Because it was funny, it was as I was doing research for this project, the NCHFP was mentioning syrups, and you can in just water if you want to keep it like 100% plant-based, no sugar, that's totally fine. I have discussed before that one of the cons of canning, I believe, especially in kind of more of a whole foods plant-based or vegan way, is most of what you can does not have a very high caloric content, yet it takes up a huge amount of space in your storage for so many reasons. The jar itself, the fact that they shouldn't be stacked, all of that, it takes up so much space that for me personally, I definitely prefer dehydrating for most things. But then when it comes to things like fruits, I do prefer them in canned form usually, whether that's a jam or a pie filling or whole fruits like I just did with the raspberries. So there's definitely pros and cons and reasons, and there is no one cut and dry method that works for absolutely everything. I have dehydrated blackberries in the past, and that makes me very hesitant to dehydrate raspberries because those berries that have a lot of seeds inside of them tend to just be like rock hard little seed packs. They never, at least as far as what I've experienced with blackberries, it never ever turned into something that was worth anything. I tried grinding it into a powder, and even my Vitamix could not break up those blackberries that I have dehydrated. I actually still have jars, like 3 or 4 quart jars of blackberries. So I thought I got a screaming deal on raspberries. It's nothing compared to the deal I got on blackberries. Like a few years ago, it was like some summer, we ended up with like 10 of those flats of blackberries. And I had a lot of preserving to do. I turned so much of it into jam. I froze so many of them, and then I also dehydrated quite a few of them. Probably will be just ending up using them in tea blends, infused waters, infused lemonades, things like that. Just whole, and then they'll probably just get composted at the end. So that's what I realized. I could probably use them in kind of like a berry tea blend. But anyway, I don't mean to digress. I'm talking about canning of raspberries. And so, yeah, it's just a super easy process. And yes, the sugar syrup, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep myself on track. I don't know if you can hear my kids screaming and playing in the background. But the sugar syrup, they were talking about the more sugar content you put into your syrup, the higher calorie the jar content will be. And they were talking about it like it was a negative, probably thinking about it like from a weight loss or, you know, even like a diabetic perspective, right? Like you don't want so much sugar. But when you're talking about putting up survival food, if you want something, and also I would think like a psychological boost, like what a psychological boost it is to have like a nice sweet fruity thing. I would say I did only the medium syrup because I hate to go much more, but if you really want to like make it kind of a really high calorie thing, even though you're canning a low calorie thing like a fruit, and you're thinking more for like putting up a bunch of calories for some sort of survival situation, then yeah, maybe making a heavier syrup for some of the fruits, not like for your daily use or whatever. It could be, you know, a part of a long-term storage strategy. So I just thought I would throw that out there because that just occurred to me for the first time today, actually reading through all that. And that's why I decided to go with a medium syrup instead of a lighter syrup, just to slightly increase the calorie content and to make that space on my shelf just a little more worth it. And again, it's not because it's so healthy to consume sugar as your calories, but if you had to rely upon your food storage, it's better to have more calories in a smaller container, which is again another reason I tend to prefer dehydration. And then also for the most part when I can, I tend to only can like potatoes and beans, but you have to use a pressure canner for that. So today was super easy though. I really do believe this is an ideal beginner canner project. This is just such an easy thing. It was maybe just barely over an hour and a half from start to finish, including setting up shots, talking, and then restarting. And like it was just, it's so fast compared to so many other things. And yeah, did like an hour and a half start to finish from this absolute very beginning of the project to having the jars resting, doing their 24-hour rest to make sure, 12 to 16-hour rest or whatever it is, to make sure that the jars seal before you remove the lids. Like, I don't know. I think that that's just incredible. So yeah, I heartily recommend canning whole berries or whole fruits. Actually, grapes work really well too. I canned some extremely sour grapes at one point, and that was when I first realized how fast it is to can certain whole fruits. So I would say look into it, and yeah, you'll end up with the fruit itself and then like a syrup surrounding the fruit. I mean, gosh, I would think that it could be an amazing thing over the top of, like pancakes or waffles or something like that too. So anyway, hopefully that was helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know down below, or let me know your thoughts on this whole process. Is there another canning project that you think is even easier and better than this? And if so, definitely let me know, because I would love to try that out. That's a kind of another one of my hangups with canning, is just how difficult the procedure is for a lot of the things. Not that it's not worth it in the end to have those things, but my gosh, the procedure is so much that it's like every time I open a jar, I feel like a little piece of my soul just flew away. But anyway, it was so much work. Okay, all right, that's it. So as always, I hope the rest of your day is good and your life stays wonderful. Thank you so much for watching. See you later. Bye.